Can you tell us about your career shift to writing and why you made that leap?
Well, the why is pretty easy to answer. Being a writer has pretty much always been my dream job from the age of about 10 when I first started writing. But growing up, I was also very aware that few people can make a living from their writing, especially if they write in such a small niche like sapphic fiction. So it didn't really feel like a realistic option for full-time profession. And so I published my first 5 books while I was working full-time as a psychologist. And then the more books I published, the more it started to look like, oh, maybe it's possible after all to make a living from this. But since I'm a pretty cautious person, I hesitated and wasn't sure. It's a big risk to take. And so my friends and a couple of beta readers encouraged me and gave me that big kick in the ass that I needed. And so in the end of 2013, I took that scary leap and gave up my day job. And I'm happy to report that I haven't regretted it even for a second.
I can jump in and grab that one. I think that when I first started writing, it was meant to be, a hobby, something to do on the side. I was teaching theater at the time, full time. And, after the first few books, I loved writing and I knew that I wanted to continue to do it, but I wasn't sure that it was realistic, that it would be a way to pay bills. I wasn't, as Jay mentioned, that she was aware of the fact that it's hard to make a living. And I don't even think I had that information. I don't think I knew whether it was hard or not. It was just kind of a foreign profession to me, one that I had always romanticized and wanted to be part of publishing in any way that I could, but had no real knowledge of whether it's practical or not. And so I published a few books, I want to say 3, and it looked like it was going to be, some good vacation money, which is great to have on the side. But yeah, there was a part of me in the back of my mind that wondered, maybe one day I could do this full time. That'd be way off in the future. And I think it took getting a few more books under my belt and some that sold well. I think once I hit I wrote a series, the Soho Loft series that did well and it sold well. And that kind of was a turning point for me where I started to realize, no, this could actually happen. And so I kind of put my business hat on and paid attention to the numbers a little bit and waited to see. And once that series kind of wrapped up, it became clear to me that this was actually something that could be a reality. And I had some decision making ahead of me. And I think at that point, that's when I made the leap, was after that 6th book.
I can jump in next to it because my story is very different to Jay and Melissa, who have been who both have very clear brands, been very careful about it. I've jumped in with both feet out of desperation about 9 years ago. It's because I'd written a couple of books while I was working as a software engineer, but I was hoping to get them published. But then I took maternity leave after I had my son, and that's where it all went. The plan went out of the window because the plan was my wife would have a baby and then have a turn looking after Joe as well. So she gave up her work just as I got made redundant. So we're both stuck at home with no income whatsoever. So I thought I dusted off a book, thought, right, I'm not going to wait any longer. I'll self-publish it. And that's one of the avenues we were trying to get money in. And it sold. So I thought, alrighty, I'll dust the other one off that I have. I'll rewrote it. An author friend looked at it, Diana Simmons, and she said, rewrite it again because it's not good. And put that one out. That sold more. And I thought, oh, well, okay, maybe this was our only income at the time. So we were living fairly minimally, but it was the income. So it was like that straight away for me. And then when my wife Jane was ready to go back to work, we thought, well, let's see if I can make a go of this and carry on. So yes, random, desperate start from me, and I'm just taking it as far as I can.
Perfect.
RJ, do you want to step in?
I was going to say if Susan could go first, because
okay,
if that's okay.
I can go. I had not been writing I had been in law school. I graduated and somehow managed to pass the bar. Started to work and thought, my God, but I hate this. But you don't know you're going to hate it until you start doing it. And it was miserable. So I carried on for a few years, not many. And my dad got sick. He was my favorite person, besides my wife. And as I watched him die over the next 2 years, I thought, why am I doing a job I don't like? What sense does this make? So I started writing and just posting online, and got more good feelings from that, which gave me zero money, than I did from making a pretty good living as an attorney. And I thought, I can do with a smaller house, I can do with an older car, but I can't get this feeling from having more money. So I decided that the feeling was worth a lot more than the dough. And luckily, my wife was making a good salary at the time, and we could cover our bills just on her salary. So she said, if you can pay for vacations and niceties, we're good. And luckily, I have been able to pay for vacations. So very glad I did it. And it's worth what you have to give up to get what gives you sustenance.
So I'll go now. I was kind of surprised in a way to be on the panel because I'm not actually a full-time writer, technically. And it was kind of like I'm on a panel with some really cool pros in the industry. So I questioned why, what I could bring to it. And after talking, to all of you and the person who proposed the panel, I got thinking about it, and it's a different perspective. I think I described it first as being like the poster child for failure, but I am going to approach it in a very different, more positive way. But I switched from medicine to IT actually. So I did medicine, put a lot of years in, and then decided years studying. I didn't actually work much at it, and then I went into IT, and I was working full time in IT when I started writing the novels, and I was doing a full time job, and I also wanted to match, published books that were out there. So I spent a lot of time studying writing and the craft of writing, and so it was like doing 2 full-time jobs, but only one of which was I considered, even in my own mind, was a full-time job. And I moved to the US in 2014, and I had this really naive idea that I could be a full-time writer. And then I realized that I had 4 novels out, and that saying, you couldn't market to save your life, and it was literally, I couldn't market to save my life. I could not speak about my books. I couldn't put them out there. So I went back into IT, and I wrote 1 novel since, and I am now a full-time IT person, and technically I'm still a full-time writer. It's just that I don't make anything from it. So that's my answer for that.